Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're watching Greenwave TV Alternative Media Television. It is, of course, Monday, April 29, 2013, here to bring you a critical update. Multiple sources are confirming that missiles were fired at Russian plane with 159 passengers on board flying over Syria. We just put out a report courtesy of AMTV News. U.S. prepares for serious Syrian invasion. Now, of course, we've been getting a ton of mainstream propaganda around WMDs, weapons of mass destruction, the use of chemical weapons in Syria, sarin gas. Reports broke last week. They were breaking over the weekend. Kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it? Kind of sounds like President George W. Bush selling the invasion of Iraq on the idea of WMDs, which turned out to be a total lie and total falsehood. Now we have the Obama administration, and we have senators like John McCain here out of Arizona and Lindsey Graham selling us on the idea of WMDs, chemical warfare in Syria, as the pretense for a potential ground invasion in Syria. Now we have this report: missiles fired at Russian plane with 159 passengers on board. Now, according to the reports, nobody was injured, and the pilots mysteriously were able to avoid the firing. But there's something extremely important about this story, and I don't know if this is another potential false flag or not. It most certainly could be. The story itself really just broke, hit the headlines, so we've got to digest this before we can do, further analysis. But what I will tell you is extremely interesting about this is the weapons that are being used and shot at this plane, at this Russian passenger jet, are the same weapons that President Barack Obama has been trafficking through Benghazi Gate, through Benghazi, and through Libya into Syria. And now those same weapons that have been trafficked and are being moved out of a newly toppled, recently assassinated Muammar Gaddafi. Remember, President Barack Obama bypassed Congress with executive privilege, invaded Libya, then murdered Muammar Gaddafi. His assets were stolen. Muammar Gaddafi, one of the richest mans on the planet, and his weapons moved from Libya into Syria to arm the Syrian insurgency and to arm Syrian terrorists. Now, the United States likes to refer to these people, which it also includes Al-Qaeda, that refers to them on the ground in Syria as freedom fighters, as the resistance, when in all, technically speaking, the technicality is these people are terrorists and these are Al-Qaeda as well as Syrian rebel insurgents, helping to propagate the overthrow of Bashar al-Assad in Syria, just like Libya. So here we have more evidence and a bigger smoking gun around the guns, pun intended, that have literally been transferred from Libya into Syria and are now being used to potentially shoot down civilian commercial jets, which will give the United States and could potentially give the United States and Western power a very good excuse to invade the region, which would include, and I think there is a strong likelihood for a Syrian invasion in the not too distant future, because again, this has always been the political objective. We have another article here, says Obama stresses concern over Syrian chemical weapons and phone call with Putin, White House. So of course the propaganda is intensifying. The rhetoric is intensifying. They're clearly showing the American people and the people of the world and indicating that they have every intent to invade and to start another war in Syria. There's another article here: Syrian Prime Minister survives Damascus bombing, 6 die. You can read that. Syria, Al-Qaeda's battle for control of Assad's chemical weapons plant. More propaganda around chemical warfare, WMDs. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? That was the false pretense that led us into Iraq with the invasion in the Middle East, which has resulted in the death of many thousands and thousands of innocent Americans that have gone over there and were sold on a flat-out, blatant lie, which is a criminal offense by the president, George W. Bush at the time. Now the same thing is being used by President Barack Obama and his administration, in addition to scapegoating events like Sandy Hook, the Batman Massacre shooting in Aurora, Colorado, Jared Loughner, the more recent Boston bombing, which, by the way, this came out by the Wall Street Journal today. Female DNA found on bomb in Boston attack. So they actually found female DNA on the bomb itself and are investigating, and we've been investigating that latest report, raising more suspicions and even more questions on top of a narrative that has changed about 1 million times since the 2 bombs went off in Boston. Of course, we have had no answers around Kraft Internationals or their alleged presence at the Boston bombing. There's been zero follow-up. We've had 2 original suspects that were identified as the original culprits, one of them which ended up dead in a river a few days ago, the other somehow mysteriously deported by the Obama administration overseas, even though he was cleared of the terrorist act itself. So more and more suspicions, and of course, also with Boston, the younger brother who was shot in the throat in the boat did not have a gun on him, so was not armed. That story was changed by White House officials as well. That was another lie. So again, more and more evidence coming out to not only indicate that the rhetoric and propaganda is intensifying, and here we have another potential false flag with missiles being fired at Russian plane with 159 passengers on board, which is now raising discussions with Putin and President Barack Obama. The recent reports over the weekend, over the past few days, of WMDs, chemical warfare, sarin gas, the use of that on the Syrian people, and, that being a war crime, warning another invasion, so Obama can go invade another country. Syrian prime minister survives a blast, 6 die, etc., etc., and now female DNA found on the bomb in the Boston attack. So we'll be updating you on all these stories. Keep on your tippy toes, America, and those truth seekers of you around the world, because this is all heating up. And what is absolutely abundantly clear is that war is on the agenda. It has always been on the agenda, just like gun confiscation and gun control has always been a part of the Obama agenda, just like Libya, just like Obama bypassed Congress to invade Muammar Gaddafi's sovereign country and murder him. They had the same intention with Bashar al-Assad. And since, note that they've also been unsuccessful in thus far assassinating Bashar al-Assad, who is under heavy guard and heavy protection, and according to reports that I had recently read, is basically being guarded 24/7 off the coast of Syria in a warship. That's the kind of protection they have. America and Western power has thus far been unable to effectively assassinate him. Now they need to justify a ground invasion, more killing, more death. Get excited, America, to send your kids over to Syria on more lies, on more bullshit. Just like President George W. Bush fed us bullshit and false pretenses to go invade Iraq. Now we have President Barack Obama selling us on bullshit to go invade Syria, scapegoat all of these tragic shootings that have been implemented by psychotropic nutbags as an excuse to get rid of our guns and to attack the Second Amendment in this country. Again, please stay on your tippy toes. Share this video everywhere. Embed it on popular websites across the internet. Favorite it, like it, and get it out to the viewing public. I'm Christopher Green. As always, hard-hitting and in your face.